Welcome to another episode in the MovieBuffs Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I have an instant reaction episode here talking about one of the latest releases from Disney, Peter Pan and Wendy. Yes, we're talking about Peter Pan and Wendy, the remade, the live action version. That's been one of the things that Disney has been doing live action remakes of some of their iconic movies. Now, before we get to that, I want to quickly talk about Time to Train Fitness. If you are a fan of the MovieBuffs podcast, there's usually a promo for it at the beginning. And Time to Train Fitness, it is a free YouTube workout channel. We have bar, we have HIIT workouts, we have HIIT cardio, we have dumbbell workouts, we have cycling, and we have a lot more coming down the road. So make sure you head to the description, click that subscribe button, and then start working out for free. You can catch me in the HIIT workouts or the dumbbell workouts, and hopefully find me another spot other than here than the podcast. Getting back to talking about Peter and Wendy now, I wanted to kind of start this episode with a epiphany that I had kind of in the beginning-ish of the movie. I want to say maybe 15, 20 minutes in, and I'm talking about my wife and I were sitting there watching the movie, and I kind of realized that this movie's not really for me. And I don't say that in terms of a negative way. I mean it as it's not made for adults. My wife had stated near the rather beginning of it that, wow, it's really following, a lot of the original content in terms of the original Disney, the cartoon version, the 1953 version of it. There are slight tweaks to it, but it's not made for adults. And so going forward in the movie, I wasn't mad at it at all, because I think that every kid should be able to watch these movies and not have to think about any of the drama that adults talk about on Twitter or talk about on social media regarding a Disney movie. I know it sounds kind of crazy there. And with all of these remakes that are coming up, I find it almost trivial. And people are not going to like that, people who are listening to this. And I wouldn't be surprised that if people hear me say this, they're going to go thumbs down this podcast episode. Okay, that's fine. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, but there's a lot of drama with these remakes. And once I started to realize, these remakes are for kids, and they should be able to have a modern version of the movie. Why do they have to watch some 50s version, 60s, 70s, no matter what the content is? Yes, some of them are good still. And there's nostalgia part of, if you're watching it as an adult, you remember the feeling that you had watching it for the first time, the 20th time, maybe out using your VHS tape version of it. And that's your connection to it. But why can't kids these days have a modern version of it that looks good? The graphics look good, whatever the CGI is, that it looks like it's from today. They can have those types of feeling with similar content and be able to enjoy it. So that's kind of how I wanted to start this episode, just talking about that, because that's kind of the tone I'm going to take for this episode with it, that talking about my views on it, that it's not so much of that I enjoyed. Was I just so blown away? No, I wasn't, because it wasn't made for me. It's made for kids to enjoy. Now, thinking back to previous editions, I actually hated the 2003 version, the Peter Pan edition. It was actually one of the only movies I've ever walked out of. It is actually the only movie I've ever walked out of. And it just wasn't, and I got to take a step back. I wasn't, but also the friends that I was with weren't liking it. So we all walked out of it and we went about our evening. But of course, I watched the 1953 version, and some of the details of it escaped me. But as watching this new remake of it, it brought back memories. Oh, okay, I know what's going to happen next. I know what's going to happen next. And then, of course, Hook, all-time classic that friends still quote today, and that's a kid's movie. And that circles back to how I started this. Why can't kids today have the the same type of feeling with a new movie that comes out that's made for them. Circling it all back here. Cast and crew of this, director David Lowery, Loery, not to be confused with David Lowery from Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2. One of the things I do want to talk about with the director was that I thought it was some really solid camera movement, that it kept the screen moving, that it stayed engaging in those aspects, and then you could tell that the director had skills, that they knew how to keep this movie moving on a certain pace, because it might be a little dull for adults, but for kids, it kept it moving. And so once I looked at some of the movies that he's made, it all kind of made sense. Has experience in a lot of these. The cast of this, Alexander Molony, he plays Peter Pan. Ever Anderson, Wendy Darling, and Jude Law plays Captain Hook. A lot of the reviews that I read prior to this just raved about Jude Law. I mean, he was Jude Law. I think that's supposed to be, he was a typical performance from Jude Law that I would say wasn't anything mind-blowing. Another one of the negative reviews that I saw was how Alexander Molony wasn't inspiring and how he can't act. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. I think that he's a child actor that, I mean, I feel like there's just like once in every 5 years that a new child actor comes on and you're just like, wow, they got it. They just blow it away. But I didn't think there was anything negative with his performance. Now, with Disney's remake formula, that this is, I think, what causes all the drama. That their formula is basically they do a pretty much the same movie, but with minor twists. One of the ones that my wife had pointed out had to do with who was being saved. In this version of it, it's her brothers, Wendy's brothers, that are being saved in one of the scenes. I feel like it's not... these instant reaction episodes are spoiler free, but I feel like most people know the movie already, that I'm not really spoiling anything from it. The scene I'm talking about is in the animated version. It's Tiger Lily who they're saving, or Peter Pan is saving. But in this one, it's Wendy's brothers. And there's other twists with it. The Lost Boys. So this is the one that I feel like a lot of people lost their minds on, is the Lost Boys aren't all boys. And this is kind of going to segue into, I'm skipping around here on my kind of episode outline here, but the Lost Boys have all types of kids in it. And I think that is amazing personally. You heard the promo about Time to Train Fitness and you're thinking, how do I get some dumbbells? There's really only two products that I recommend when it comes to at-home fitness, and one of those are the Core Home Fitness Adjustable Dumbbells. If you're already following the YouTube workouts, these are the dumbbells that I use, me, Tyler, and you've probably seen me adjust them between the weights super fast. Along with adjusting quickly, they go from 5 pounds to 50 pounds and feel great in the hands. Head to the link in the description and grab yourself a pair. You have the free workouts on YouTube and will now have the dumbbells to help you reach your fitness goals. If you've been a fan of our podcast, you've probably already heard me, Tyler, one of your hosts, talk about the Naboso insoles. If you are ever wondering about, what are insoles? How do they help my feet? Are they really useful? I got to tell you that I've been wearing these Duo insoles for probably a year and a half now, and I think they're game changers. If you sit at a desk, if you are on your feet, so basically anybody, for anybody in the world, they can really help with your health. If you ever have foot pain or if you have any type of issues with your feet, these can be a game changer for you. Hopefully, you take my word on it. You head to the link in the description, you buy yourself a pair, and you come back and you share it that, I actually bought those insoles and they actually do work. That'd be something that we'd love to hear, love to see, because that means that you're working on your health. That's it for the promo break. Let's get back to the episode. Talking about inclusion and the audience. And I'm a grown man, and I will admit that it wasn't until I watched, and I've talked about this in the MovieBuffs Podcast, that it wasn't until I watched Shang-Chi that it really clicked in my head about inclusion, about being able to see yourself in a character And, I'm not Chinese, but that's an Asian actor. And that's something that when you grow up, you don't see Asian actors being the main lead as much. That's why Crazy Rich Asians was such a big thing, that there was a fully led Asian cast. And with Shang-Chi, you have an Asian actor crushing it. And yes, Jackie Chan along those lines, all the movies that he did. And that's maybe why I liked his movies and why there was sentiment in Shang-Chi for me. But it all kind of clicked. And so I put this a part of this episode because they have kids that look like everybody in it. They have, I believe I read that he is the first actor with Down syndrome in a movie. And when I saw this, I was like, wow, that's great that there's somebody watching this that they're going to watch and say, hey, that's me. I can do that. And for me, isn't that what Disney's about? Imagination, inspiration, that shooting for the stars, to have these dreams that you can do whatever you want. Isn't that the beauty of Disney? That it's not, these are all, why aren't all the Lost Boys boys? Is that really what you're about? That you're about making sure that it looks like a cartoon from the 50s instead of all kids that watch this movie, who this movie's made for, seeing it and being able to think, I can do that. I can be an actor, or I can have imagination. I can use my imagination and my creativity. So I feel like it's not that much of a rant with all this stuff, but the inclusion of this movie, I think, is a strength for kids to watch. And, the reviews, you hear people saying, stop ruining my childhood movies. You still have your childhood movie. This is another it's another movie made for kids, but you still have your childhood version that you could still go back to. And these reviews that you see that say that, they're coming from adults. And so I think that this is a movie that any kid can watch, enjoy, and that from a parent's perspective, you're most likely, and I'm giving my recommendation here as part of it, and there's going to be another thing that I'll talk about after that, but how do I talk about with my new recommendations in terms of how many times are you probably going to pick up your phone because you're bored and you're just not as engaged with it, especially watching at home. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5, meaning that there's a good chance that you're going to pick up your phone multiple times as an adult. But again, not geared towards adults, not a movie meant for you, that I can see this movie being loved by kids and in them enjoying it. But I would say my main issue with the movie is probably that some of the iconic scenes didn't really pack a punch. There wasn't really something that was like, oh, wow, that was amazing. Or that was just so well done that it made me think about it, that the build up to it, how it was filmed, the creativity behind it. And that's maybe the content, that the story, when you're a kid watching it, everything is amazing. Lights, colors, everything, a moving alligator, all amazing. And so that could also be what we're exposed to today with movies, that you're just waiting for it to go to the next level of every single item. And so a lot of the scenes in it didn't pack a punch. And saying this out loud now, it's probably because you already know what's coming. And if it doesn't meet your standards, again, it's not made for you. It's made for the kids. So this has kind of been my instant reactions, kind of spoiler free. And I say that because you probably already know the content. You know what's coming in this movie. And I do hope that if you have kids, you share it with your kids. They watch it, they enjoy it. And they do go down that path of thinking, yeah, I can do I can be an actor. I can do whatever it is I put my mind to, because that is the beauty of Disney. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope that I didn't make anybody mad listening to it. That's not the intent of it. It's mostly to share my perspective of this one. And that's part of why I wanted to make this episode. I thought long and hard if I wanted to even make this episode, because it's one that somebody listening might take offense to, because I'm not tearing Disney apart. I'm not making remarks about Disney and they're ruining this X, Y, and Z. I'm talking about what I think that kids will enjoy this, and what I think that this movie does well, what I think that what it can do for the future, and that I hope they do make more movies like this, because I don't believe in that. Oh, well, the box office shows. I'm just putting this out there as a joke here because it was one of my favorite ones. I remember somebody complaining how, the box office shows that these remade movies are not doing well. And I was like, you must live under a bridge because you're a troll and you don't know what you're talking about. Aladdin did over a billion. Jungle Book, almost a billion. And with Jungle Book, it literally changed the game with how they did CGI with animals and how realistic it looked. And the work that Favreau did on that was talked about for weeks, for months, if not. And I'm sure it led to him getting what he does now with Star Wars. So for people to say it's not working or the box office isn't showing that, think again. They're crushing it, and they'll continue to do that. That's been it for this episode. Make sure you do all the podcast things, like, share, leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you like this one, make sure that you go on social media and let me know. Let me know what you think about it, your opinion on it, and I hope to see you in the next one.